Right, privacy policy. The fact is that the government have no intention of safeguarding your privacy, none whatsoever. And if you read this, you will find out why their policy is actually a charter for stolen data. And there's absolutely no way any of this adds up to any kind of security at all. There's so much personal data floating around that it's quite extraordinary. And you may object to the processing of personal data. Right. We delete any information we hold. So, okay. So the word lawfully, but the question is, process reaches decisions. How we keep information safe. They say if something goes wrong, breaches, so they say your data is important, but they can't guarantee that nothing gets stolen. It says a very small number of records are selected for permanent preservation. Don't you think that should be done with the permission of the person concerned? I don't want any of my records being bandied around. Anyway, the reason for this upload is because I keep being sent a letter from the council saying I should register to vote, and that if I don't, I might get fined 80 quid. It's very, very bad. The register to vote, there's two kinds of register. There's the open register and there's the electoral register. And the open register is sold to anyone who wants to buy it. So if they get the open register, like so-called charities like the RNLI, people smugglers, they can buy the register, and then, or maybe they just get given it, I guess, and then they can bombard you with begging letters so that you can fund the invasion of our country. And there's no, on this letter here, there's absolutely no way you can opt out of the open register. You have to do that in another way. So the opting out principle is very, very deceptive, because you asked to opt out of something that you never opted in. I'm sure almost nobody wants to be on the open register, but probably 95% of people go on it without even thinking about it. They are then on the open register. It means their name and address can be given or sold to Tom, Dick or Harry. And that's not good. That is very bad. That is the opposite of having your data protected. Data should only be given with very, very strict rules and only on a need to know, i.e. your GP needs to have your name and address, obviously, and a contact detail. That's legitimate. But certainly, why I'm being asked to vote, I don't want to vote because there's no one I can vote for. We don't have a proper voting system in this country. All votes should be counted. The problem with our country is we have first past the post, and we don't have proportional representation. Proportional representation would mean that you could vote for who you wanted. Now you're basically told that you can vote for the people you dislike least. But since I dislike all the political parties, the main ones equally, there's been no point. I couldn't, unless I started my own political party, there'd be no one there worth voting for. So that's not going to work. But exactly why you need to be threatened for something that's supposed to be an advantage. You wouldn't be threatened with an £80 fine if you didn't collect your £80. People who are offered something, if voting is good, people will presumably want to vote. But I'm told, when I called up the council, I was then told that just because, you don't have to vote, but you have to register to vote. Now, why is it logical that you should be registering for something that you're not interested in? I don't want to vote. I don't want to register to vote, because it's like if you don't have a car and you can't drive, why would you need to obtain a driving license, right? And yet they say, well, get yourself a driving license, but doesn't mean you need to buy a car. Yeah, but I don't want to buy a car and I don't know how to drive, so why the hell am I being told to get a driving license? You see, it's all about data grab. And of course, a lot of this information is sent to other countries for processing, and no doubt other countries can purchase the data. I have to say that as a victim of stalking for many, many years, one of the few things that's protected me is that I've got an incredibly common name, which means that anyone stalking me would have to work quite hard to trace me. I'm sure they could do so eventually, especially since they have contacts with the police and local councils. But I don't want to vote. I don't want to register to vote. I would wish to live in a system where we had genuine choices of independent people who have the best interests of this country at heart. Such people, unfortunately, are very, very few and far between in this country and would not stand a chance. So, unfortunately, we're doomed. We're fucked. But I don't want to register to vote. I object to this threatening letter. I also object to the fact that there's nowhere on this paperwork that I can register that I do not want to be on the open registry. Right? Privacy statement. And this is something very interesting. Read it. We collect information under the legal basis of a task carried out in the public interest, as set out in the Representation of the People's Act and related regulations. We will look after personal information securely and follow data protection. Now, can you please tell me how it can be said that you're looking after personal information securely when the vast majority of people who register have their data sold on the open register? That's not secure, is it? That means your name and address is being sold to God knows who for God knows what reason. So clearly, this is a lie. If you opted out of the open register, we will only use the information you give us for electoral purposes. So even if you opt out of the open register, there's still many, many purposes they can use your personal data for. It says here, unless we have to by law, you see, by law. So the government can create any kind of law which will mean that they can get your data, although to be fair, they already have it. To anyone else, unless we have to, the law requires us to share your information, listen to this, with candidates. I'm not going to vote. Why should my data be given to candidates, political parties and campaigners? I don't want their democratic engagement. Why do they need my personal data for that? Perhaps they can send some junk through the letterbox. I don't need them to know my name and address for that, do I? And credit referencing agencies. Well, then again, what benefit is to me to provide? I mean, some of us manage without credit. It's not a good idea to borrow money, as a matter of fact. Or check your identity when you apply for credit. Well, supposing I don't want to apply for credit, and supposing I don't want any mail shots from political candidates whose policies I strongly detest. So basically, it says here, if you have not opted out of the open register, your name and address can be bought by anyone and used for lots of purposes, including direct marketing. May I draw your attention to what it says here? We will look after personal information securely. So I'm sorry, if they give your data to marketing companies and various other people, then your data is not being securely looked after, right? That is a fact. This I would like a test case legally that this is clearly, but the problem is we don't live in a fair country. Our judges are bent. Our legal system is corrupt, and therefore, however logical something is, we are still not going to get justice.